So, hi everyone again. We're just going to finish this introduction to some CSS techniques. This is as far as we got last time. In my CSS style sheet, I was busy styling my big wrapper, and I also styled my nav bar to help me put the buttons in that nav bar into the center of the screen. I was also messing around with this hover action, if you like, which I applied to any images on my web page. So image : hover, and when we hover over an image, I'm saying I want you to change the opacity to 50%, and this is the effect that we got. If I launch that in Chrome, there you go. When we hover over the image, the opacity changes to 50%. Okay. Now, that may cause us a problem in future. The problem being, if I have some other images in other divs in my web page, just big, normal, wonderful, beautiful images that are not buttons, they're not in my nav bar, they're just regular images, they will also be affected by this situation. And I may not want that. So we'll have to figure out how to solve that problem later. We're not going to do that today. What I would like to do though, if I look again at my web page, not only would I like the opacity to change, I would also like just a little shift in the angle of the button when I hover over it. I just want to rotate the button. Now, previously we would have had to make buttons in something like Flash to make that rotation transition happen. However, with HTML5 and the latest version of CSS, which is CSS3, we can do all of that in our HTML web pages and CSS pages. So let's have a look at how to do that. First of all, I'm going to go to the internet because I need to do a little bit of research. And what I'm going to ask the internet is, can you show me anything about the WebKit? This is a magical word, guys. WebKit relates to CSS3 animations. It's a key word, please remember it. WebKit rotations. Oh yeah, that's good. WebKit rotate on hover. Oh, that's exactly what I'm looking for. WebKit rotate on hover. Rotate image 360 degrees when the mouse hovers. Okay, let's have a look at that. Wow. Okay, so it looks like we need to set up two things. We need to set up a .rotate class, if you like, and we also need to set up a hover action when we use the rotate class. Now, this all looks very confusing at the moment, so I'm just going to point out one thing to you. We're using Google Chrome, so why don't we just continue to use and test all our work in Google Chrome? That, Moz, means Mozilla Firefox, and you might want to use that later in your design. We can talk about that later. This O, I believe, means Opera, and this may mean Internet Explorer. I'm not sure exactly what all of these mean. I personally am using Google Chrome, so I'm going to focus on this line of code here, this line of code here. These are all WebKits, and for this hover action, I'm going to focus on this line of code here. So for the moment, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to take all of that. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go back to Notepad and my CSS style sheet. Just paste all that stuff in. It looks very confusing. I don't need that. I'm not going to mess around with Mozilla yet. I'm just going to keep this simple for Google Chrome until I figure out what I'm doing. Okay, so that's that. I'm going to keep that WebKit transition property, because I need that. Overflow hidden. I'm not going to worry too much about that at the moment. Now then, let's have a look at the hover action when we do a rotate. I'm going to keep the WebKit because that's Google Chrome, and I'm going to get rid of Mozilla and rid of Opera. Just going to take those out. Now, what does all this mean? Let's think about it as we work on it. Okay, I have a .rotate class, and in the rotate class I'm saying when I rotate something, I want the rotation duration to be 0.8 seconds. And I don't know what this means. Do we even need it? We'll have a look at that in a moment. We've also got a hover action which we're putting onto the rotate class, similar to the hover action that we put onto any image. This time we're putting the hover action onto a rotate class, and what we're saying is, when we hover, please transform whatever is related to the rotate class, please transform it by 360 degrees. Okay? Don't worry if none of that makes sense at the moment, but I'm going to save that. I'm going to go back to my HTML file, I'm going to go back to my image, and I'm going to add a class. Of course it must have a source, but I'm going to add a class called rotate. I mean, I've already done it, so it's there waiting for us. We've saved it. Let's launch it in Chrome. We'll launch it in Chrome. Oh, and there we have it. We now have a rotate, 360 degrees. Look at that. So let's just mess around with that a little bit. I'm going to go back to my CSS style sheet. I'm going to change that to 180 degrees. And I'm going to change that to 3 seconds and see what happens. Control S. We'll save all that. Back to my HTML page to run and launch in Chrome. Oh, so now it's taking 3 seconds to perform the transition. And when we hover, the transition is a 180 degree rotate. Okay? Now then, another question I had was, what is this all about and this all about? Do I need it? I'm going to delete those 2 lines because I don't know what they do yet. I'm going to save that and go back to my HTML page and launch in Chrome. Well, it still works. So, are those 2 lines of code necessary? At the moment, I really don't know. And as my understanding of WebKit transitions and transforms increases, maybe I will start to understand which lines of code I definitely need and which lines of code I know that I don't need. But at the moment, it's an introduction. I don't know what I'm doing, but I am figuring it out. That's all for today. Thank you.